Welcome everyone. This is going to be an important XRP update. I do have a special guest on my channel today. You almost never see him on my channel. I'm just joking. Welcome, Versan. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you very much, man. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you on the channel for this quick XRP updates. It has been like a last minute decision. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think is going to be the #1 catalyst for XRP adoption? I know we have spoken many times, perhaps a Black Swan event, or do you think it's going to be a liquidity event? So I want to hear from you.
Yeah, so I think we've covered this many times, but what I truly believe at this point is that the #1 driver behind XRP and a catalyst for XRP is going to be something geopolitical. And there's so many ways we can explain this, but right now the truth is XRP is coupled to the broader risk markets, and that's because it's coupled to most of global liquidity flows that follow through the debt-based system, right? We're talking about the dollar-based debt channels. So it's really liquidity that lifts everything right now in the market. But there's going to be a point, real catalyst, where there is going to be a decoupling, and that's going to happen when the market infrastructure is going to force the new pathways to accelerate. And that's pretty much tied into the broader geopolitical catalyst, where countries and institutions don't want to route their flows anymore, their financial flows, through the infrastructure that's controlled by rival powers. In this scenario, we're talking about the United States' old hegemony status, right? So there's going to be a time and place where you're going to see more fragmentation in the world, and that is leading to the multipolar world, where essentially the neutral settlement layers are going to win. And I don't think the people who are building all of this, they don't want a world where their future is going to depend on the competition's rails, the dollar system. So I think that's what is going to really trigger XRP to these new highs. And the thing is, in the grand scheme, when we look at it, the market right now is measuring XRP through the wrong lens. So the price is being measured by the old game. That's going to change eventually, and I'll just keep it like that.
I love your explanation. And meanwhile, I do want to bring to the screen some news now about the Clarity Act, because the next question is related to the Clarity Act. So just going to share the screen. So right here it says, let me put full screen so I can read it better. The Senate Republicans released updated Clarity Act text that bans the president and covert officials from issuing digital assets and requires them to sell their crypto holdings or put them in a blind trust. How interesting. I wish this was retroactive, but I do want to ask you a question. Do you think that to some degree XRP adoption depends on the approval of the Clarity Act, or you think that XRP can actually fulfill its role and is actually way beyond just regulation in the United States?
As we talked about the other day, there are two sides to this. The Clarity Act does have some use cases. The Clarity Act, in my view, is really theater, like most other things, because underneath the Clarity Act, underneath all the drama as far as the regulations, you see the true story, how everything that's been done is done by Ripple, really, and Ripple isn't waiting for any permission, to be honest. You know, they're the ones already leading the financial landscape. They're the ones writing the rules through the execution of what they've been doing for more than a decade. They're doing this through the infrastructure. They're doing it through the global regulatory positioning that they've been building around the world that already makes the United States Clarity Act and some of the other legislation really just drama. It's more of a tailwind. It's more of a discussion than a prerequisite for where this is all going. So anyone that truly sees the bigger picture, this is playing out more like a problem, reaction, solution scenario, and the evidence is overwhelming. And we can tie that back into the whole geopolitical context. The problem is, when I'm talking about problem, reaction, solution, the legacy systems are breaking under their own weight of the exponential, unsustainable debt. Slow, expensive, it's all fragmented, so that's being exposed. The other side, the reaction, is the political theater, like the Clarity Act, the market noise, the headlines, everything you see happening, right? And as far as the solution, Ripple's been building and leading the infrastructure. So Washington's just playing theater for the masses and mostly for the speculators. And I think 90% of people who are investing in digital assets are indeed speculators. The truth is Ripple has been executing the global agenda for more than a decade and longer than that. And it even predates Bitcoin. So I think the evidence, Ido, is the leadership is not in a single bill, and it has nothing to do with the United States. Ripple has already secured all the licenses, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a time and place for all this.
Love your answer, Versan. That's why I love working with you, man. I remember, for example, the Central Bank of Russia already successfully tested on top of the XRP ledger. So indeed, XRP is a global asset and is way beyond just the Clarity Act and the United States. A lot of people sometimes have this blinded vision and they are expecting on something and hoping on something that's happening in America, but forgetting that XRP is indeed a global monetary instrument that expands way beyond the American borders. So my final question for you now, if you are not allowed to hold XRP, I know this is just a hypothetical scenario, but I want just to make a point here. Which digital assets would you hold? Let's say you could hold 3 digital assets and you were not allowed to hold XRP.
Yeah. The only reason you wouldn't be able to hold XRP is most likely if the IMF, which is obviously working very closely with Ripple, but if the IMF were to classify XRP as an electronic special drawing rights, in that scenario, first of all, it is unconstitutional worldwide because they're essentially taking an asset that could certainly redistribute wealth and keeping it for themselves. So in a scenario like that, they have legal authority to confiscate it, whether you have an LLC, whether you have a trust, it doesn't really matter. It's an asset that is now allocated specifically to the central banks, not for the people. So if I was to hold some other assets, and this ties into my conviction portfolio, which includes XRP, but if I can't hold that, I do have my XLM, which is designed for retail, that's people like us, right? And this actually falls into the Bank for International Settlements money flower. So it's going to have a very big use case and a very big role in where this is going. The other assets would be HBAR, which also has an incredible use case. It's extremely undervalued, and Algorand as well. Some people will say Quant and XDC, which I agree to. Also SHX and Velo. SHX is primarily for businesses. Velo too. There are a lot of other assets out there that are extremely undervalued that do have a use case and that will play as critical infrastructure for the new financial system, whether it's cross-border settlements, whether it's tokenization, whether it's smart contracts, doesn't matter. There's going to be this interoperability aspect where each of these technologies servicing a different niche use case in the global marketplace have a role. And because of that deep belief, I've never sold some of these assets, not during the 2021 bull run, and not during any of the other bear markets. As far as tactical positioning, if you're really trying to maximize your position and really create some profits here, I think taking profits, you could play SHX very easily. You can play Caspa, you can play Velo, and those are the assets I'm actively concentrating large funds into. That way I can make a meaningful size profit in my position when I start selling. So yeah. And physical gold, maybe silver, platinum too, other assets.
Lovely explanation. For the ones that are watching this video, is going to be released today. Tomorrow, we're going to go live with the turning points where we're going to cover extensively SHX. I think there is some relevant news, and also the price action has been quite interesting this week. So I think for today, that's all. I want to send a special thanks for you, Versan, for joining my channel today. I'm going to drop the link for Versan's YouTube channel on the description of this video, so you guys can check his channel out. In case you don't know his channel, I truly believe at this point you guys are already subscribed to Versan. Anyways, any final thoughts, man?
Yeah, I want to remind people that the market is really like a seesaw. You know what a seesaw is? One goes up, one comes down. And that's essentially how wealth is transferred every time. And it's the perfect visual for how the entire financial system works. Because the truth is, the market does act like a giant seesaw. On one side, you have liquidity and you have new monetary expansion where money is coming into the system. And on the other side, the existing savers, wage earners, retail investors, speculators, people with their money in a 401k, in a pension. When the printer fires up, the seesaw turns, right? And that's when asset prices go higher, and the liquidity slams down hard onto the investors. So that's how the rich are getting richer. And we're seeing the very same patterns happening right now. And we can talk about this tomorrow. So
all right, man. Thanks everyone. It was a pleasure to host you today, Versan, and I'm going to see you tomorrow for the turning points. Thanks everyone.
Looking forward to it.